Hi, it's Katrina.
Number 10. The Lost Labyrinth of Egypt. In the legends of ancient Greece, they speak of a monumental maze built near the Herawa Pyramid of Egypt, known only as the Labyrinth. It was said to be a vast network of winding tunnels, deep rooms, temples, and filled to the brim with artifacts and mysterious hieroglyphics. Amazingly, it was all underground, constructed at least before the 5th century BC, when it was first spoken of by Greek historians. It was the Greek historian Herodotus who even claimed to see the labyrinth with his own eyes. The labyrinth was mentioned by multiple historians until the year 79 AD. Many people claim to have seen the labyrinth for themselves, and this inspired an excavation in 1842 organized by King Friedrich Wilhelm IV of Prussia. But it wasn't until much later, in 1888, that archaeologists actually discovered proof. Ruins were found covering a massive area and winding 6 feet below the ground, right at the base of the Herawa Pyramid. In 2008, researchers from Belgium used ground-penetrating radar to solve the mystery once and for all. On the southern side of the pyramid, they found evidence of a massive structure underground, containing tunnels and dozens of enormous rooms. It was hard to get an actual reading because groundwater had permeated the site. However, it does appear that there is indeed an enormous labyrinth, or some kind of structure, underneath the ground in front of the pyramid. Number 9. Dinura Castle. The Dinura Castle in Scotland has been abandoned for at least 3 centuries. Before that, it was a powerful fortress occupied by the Kennedy family, who started construction on the main keep back in the early 1200s. They built it overlooking the Firth of Clyde on a rocky outcrop, which was perfect to protect against invasion. As the Kennedy family prospered, their castle became larger and larger. One member of the family married the daughter of King Robert III, while another became the Bishop of St. Andrews and founded St. Salvator's College. The main keep was expanded with a curtain wall. New buildings were added, including a chapel, a prison, and a massive living area for the family and their servants. In 1429, the castle was a meeting place between 2 warring factions in Scotland. One side represented King James I of Scotland, the other John Moore MacDonald of the Lord of the Isles. Violence broke out at the meeting, and MacDonald was killed, resulting in an uprising. About a century later, in 1563, Mary, Queen of Scots, stayed at this castle as a guest. In 1569, Gilbert Kennedy kidnapped a rival named Alan Stewart and had him roasted over an open fire inside the castle kitchens. This led to a major fight, at which point the Kennedy family was obliterated after having lived in the castle for over 300 years. It was abandoned after that, and by the 1700s was effectively a ruin. These days, it's a shell of its former mysterious glory. The castle no longer has a roof, but it remains filled with mystery and historical significance. Number 8. El Tajin. El Tajin is an ancient city in the Mexican state of Veracruz, which reached its height about 1100 years ago. The city's streets fell silent in the 13th century, 700 years ago. At one point, it was the most important place in Mesoamerica. After the fall of the Teotihuacan Empire, those mysterious people who built the Great Pyramids north of Mexico City, El Tajin became the center of culture and government. Its influence was so great that it extended down the Gulf of Mexico and even affected some regions of the Maya kingdom. If you're confused about the timeline, it was the culture at El Tajin who ruled between Teotihuacan's abandonment and the rise of the Aztec. It's quite a fascinating and mysterious place because it lived for such a short time. For 400 years, a mysterious group of people with no official name created unique architecture, artwork, and held their own unique system of beliefs. There were probably up to 15,000 people living here, and they even built their own pyramids. But when the Aztecs showed up, this mysterious, unnamed civilization disappeared. Number 7. Gyansezhong. The Gyansezhong fortress is one of the most fascinating remaining fortresses anywhere in Tibet. It is almost like something out of a movie scene, a large, imposing, and somewhat mythical castle standing above the small town of Gyanse on a jagged rise of brown rock. Historical records tell us the fortress was constructed around the year 1390 as a guard post, protecting the entrance of the Tsangpo Valley. The original fortress, which was much smaller than the one that came after, was commissioned by the anti-Buddhist ruler Langdharma sometime around the year 838. The small fortress grew larger and larger, more walls went up, and it became the powerful fortress that we still see standing today. By the end of the 14th century, Gyansezhong was a huge and mysterious fortified city and one of the most powerful places in all of Tibet. What happened between 1400 and 1900 isn't exactly known, as the people of the region mainly kept to themselves and didn't receive visitors. It wasn't until the British expedition in 1904 that the fortress was entered by foreigners. The British took the fortress over, occupied it, and ever since it's been disrupted from its history as a place of peace and isolated harmony. The Chinese even blew apart some of the walls during the Cultural Revolution of 1967. Number 6. The Emperor's Pleasure Villa. The Villa of Tiberius is an ancient mansion complex and was the perfect place for the emperor to come and relax. It was famous for its unique location and was part of a cave that had salt water flowing through various pools and bathrooms, even through a dining room. Located in Sperlonga, Italy, it was first constructed during the late Republican era of Rome, probably around the year 30 BC. But it was Emperor Tiberius who expanded the site in the 1st century AD and turned it into his own personal vacation spot. He installed a gym, a series of Roman baths, docks for his boats, and pools that were fed by a nearby natural spring. It was a very posh residence, half natural caves, and embellished with artificial stalactites to make it look more exciting. Right at the cave's entrance was a dining space where Tiberius could have meals with all the most important people in the empire. To be fair, the Villa of Tiberius was not so different from many of the other villas created by crazy Roman rulers. However, this one has a really interesting twist in the tale. The Roman historian Tacitus wrote that in the year 26, Tiberius was dining in his favorite cave when the roof suddenly collapsed. The rocks at the entrance fell, many of the attendants were crushed, and Tiberius narrowly escaped with his life. He was so shaken by the experience that he abandoned his impressive villa and built a new one at Capri. He even distanced himself from the rule of the empire, handing over all the official duties to his trusted advisors. His plan was to live a life of pleasure and debauchery in the countryside while still being emperor without doing any work. But his advisors, Sejanus and Naevius Sutorius Macro, the two people he trusted the most, instead plotted to overthrow him. But Tiberius found out and ordered their immediate execution. Number 5. Kamsum Yuli Nam Gyal Chorten. The Kamsum Yuli Nam Gyal Chorten is a stupa in the isolated and mysterious nation of Bhutan. It was built with the singular purpose of keeping evil forces out of the country and bringing peace to the Bhutanese, as well as the rest of the world. On the outside, the cliffside stupa, which was built above a great and misty valley on the side of a mountain, looks like it's been there for thousands of years. It appears like it's a secret retreat for monks hiding deep inside the mountain jungles of Asia. However, it's almost brand new. It was built in 2004 by the Queen of Bhutan. The reason it looks so old is that it was constructed in accordance with the traditional teachings. It took a total of 9 years for the best sculptors and carpenters in the country to finish the impressive structure, as well as the various pagodas that surround it. There are massive statues of scary and angry deities within the building. One of the main figures is Vajrakilaya, whose supernatural fury is bent towards destroying forces that are hostile to compassion. It's his power, as well as some of the other deities' powers, that are supposed to protect any evil forces from penetrating the country. And of course, there's a giant golden statue of Buddha at the very top. Even though this particular stupa's construction is quite recent, keep in mind the area in general is thousands of years old. People have been living in the mountains of Bhutan and right here in the Punakha Valley for as long as anyone can remember. Number 4. London's Camelot. Camelot Moat is a small enclosure monument near the top of Ferny Hill, which is in the London borough of Barnet. It's been called London's Camelot, with some experts believing this very well could have been the place where King Arthur held court in the 12th century. Others don't believe it had any connection to King Arthur. It's all very confusing. Keep in mind that King Arthur and his court of Camelot became popularized in the 15th century in literature. Since then, no one has actually been able to confirm whether King Arthur was a real person or just a character in a fairy tale. Nonetheless, there is an account from 1440 that mentioned the manor of Camelot being located near the site of what is today called Camelot Moat. Camelot could very well be a variation of the word Camelot, just changed over the years. There have been several archaeological discoveries made here that suggest something impressive once stood on the grounds. There are ancient structures that date back to the 12th century and a large crater which looks like it was once used as an ancient well. Excavations in the 1880s even turned up a dungeon with chains attached to the wall. They discovered the timbers from a drawbridge so rotted they had turned black. There were also tiles found adorned with paintings of knights on horseback. Then, in 1923, large square oak beams from a drawbridge were discovered and a wall of stone about 40 feet long, evidence of what was probably once a large house or a keep-like structure. In modern times, these discoveries are nowhere to be seen. Interestingly enough, no one has done any modern excavations. It is still a mystery what truly stood here 800 years ago, but it was definitely something significant. There appears to have been a large structure, a manor of some kind, surrounded by a moat and accessible via a drawbridge. This could have been Arthur's Camelot, or it could have just been a rich noble's home. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 3. Church of the Holy Redeemer. The Church of the Holy Redeemer was built by the great prince Abulgarib Palavuni in the ancient Armenian city of Ani in the year 1035. It's one of the only structures that still stands in the city, which is located in modern-day Turkey. Between the years 961 and 1045, this city was the capital of the powerful Bagratid Armenian kingdom. They built over 50 churches, 33 cave chapels, and 20 ordinary chapels within the city walls. It was one of the most impressive and almost supernatural religious centers of the medieval world. But the Church of the Holy Redeemer is by far the most mysterious church built here. It was built specifically to house a fragment of the true cross. Yes, it was made to be a repository for what is believed to be an actual piece of the wooden cross upon which Jesus Christ was crucified. Perhaps this relic is an authentic one, as the church proved to be far luckier than any of the others. After the city of Ani was destroyed by the Mongol invasion of 1236, then devastated by an earthquake in 1319, almost every single building was destroyed, except for the Church of the Holy Redeemer. It was almost as if some unseen force was keeping it standing. Number 2. Ancient Miletus. Ancient Miletus is an abandoned city from ancient Greece, located in what is now Turkey, near the mouth of the Meandar River. It was first occupied in the Neolithic period around 3500 BC. Then, in the Bronze Age, a small group of settlements here turned into a centralized city. It began to trade with the Minoan civilization and flourished. Ancient Miletus turned into a great Mycenaean stronghold before eventually being conquered by the Hittites. In the latter part of the Bronze Age and in the early Iron Age, the region saw great instability. Civilizations were rising and falling every few decades. It was the end of the Hittite Empire and the Mycenaean kingdoms, and Miletus was destroyed in the chaos. Archaeological excavations have revealed the city was destroyed by a giant fire, probably at the hand of the mysterious Sea People. Nobody knows what kind of battle took place here. There are no historical records of the city following its destruction at the hands of the Hittites, but since it was near the coast, and since the Sea People did move through the area, burning and looting everything they could find, they were probably responsible for its final demise. Number 1. The Labyrinth of Knossos. The Great Palace of Knossos is one of the most mysterious and magical places of the ancient world. It's an archaeological gem found on the island of Crete in Greece. Not only is it a very real fortress hiding an ancient labyrinth, it's also a place from one of the most popular Greek myths that has survived over 2,000 years. As the story goes, it was the palace of King Minos who had young Athenians brought to Crete once a year to be sacrificed to the terrible Minotaur he had lurking in the labyrinth beneath. The monstrous Minotaur was half man, half bull, who only ate human flesh. The Minotaur was a punishment by the god Poseidon after King Minos tried to trick the god. His wife was seduced by a bull, and so the beast was confined to the underground labyrinth to keep it hidden from view. The tortuous maze was impossible to escape, and the young people would wander trying to get out until they were caught and ripped apart by the beast. After several years, the Athenian hero Theseus decided to sacrifice himself to try to slay the beast and save his people. He befriended the daughter of King Minos, Ariadne, who gave Theseus a ball of string that would help him find his way out. Once in the dank and dark labyrinth, Theseus was able to kill the animal and help the rest of the Athenians escape. And while this is all just part of a Greek myth, the truth is that there really was a labyrinth near this immense fortress. Archaeologists have found the ruins of an immense palace. The elaborate Palace of Knossos had no hallways, and it seemed to have thousands of rooms laid out in random order. It would have been extremely secure, but also dark and confusing unless you knew the place. The ruins of Knossos cover a massive area of about 6 acres. At one point, the walls stood at least 5 stories tall. Today, there is nothing left except ruined stone buildings and broken pieces of rooms and chambers. It was destroyed around the year 1375 BC, most likely by an earthquake. Thanks for watching! Which of these places would you like to see in real life, or have you already? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!